sound, back to the sound.
Hey guys, it's Cardo. The PNS Pro review. I'll be looking at 5 things about this product: the ease of use, versatility, cleaning capabilities, foaming capabilities, as well as the price value. I'll be looking at all that, give my opinion at the end of the video, as well as a rating scale from 0 to 10. So, let's get started. Topic 1. Ease of use. Before we go deep in the rabbit hole of the review, let's cover what is Pearl as a product. This is an auto shampoo concentrate from PNS under the double black lineup. It is highly dilutable, foam cannon ready to use with a pressure washer, and safe on all finishes and mild on the hands when contact washing. And this product is made in the USA. There is a short description on the back explaining what it is and what you can achieve with this soap. I won't go over everything, but something to note is that this formula is biodegradable and pH balanced. Instructions on how to properly use this are clearly stated on the back to follow drainage regulations, which here in California nobody does, as well as how to dilute this. The label states that the recommended dilution in a bucket is 1 ounce for every gallon of water, later followed up with the optimum ratio of 80 to 128 to 1 solution. I appreciate that there is a bucket ratio recommendation, but I don't know why that there isn't one for the foam cannon. Sure, you can follow the traditional 16 to 1, maybe 8 to 1, but that doesn't excuse why they don't state that for those new to detailing terminology and logic. The hazard chart on the back states that this soap has no flammability nor physical hazard, but a level 1 on health. For more information, please regard to the PNS contact information on screen. I will cover many things for this category regarding how easy it is to work with this soap. Starting off, I will check the lubricity on different dilutions to see where it retains its slickness. I will use a simple measurement cup to which I will transfer to large containers the more water I add. In a small cup, I add 1 ounce of undiluted pearl and on another container with 16 ounces of water. Then I mix them together for the 16 to 1 dilution ratio. Dipping my hands in and getting a feel, there is a lot of slickness in the solution with no friction between my fingers whatsoever, and this is definitely safe for a wash, clay lube, or pre-wash, so this ratio gets a pass. Next, I add 16 more ounces of water to change the solution to 32 to 1 ratio. Rubbing my fingers in the liquid, it is practically the same amount of slickness even at half of the previous ratio, so this gets a pass. Transferring the solution to a larger container, I add 32 more ounces of water for the 64 to 1 dilution ratio. Dipping my hands in, there is barely noticeable drop in slickness. I mean, I could tell it was diluted, but nothing much to change my opinion on how it feels. So this ratio gets a pass. Transferring the solution again, I pour everything into a medium-sized bucket and add an additional 64 ounces of water for the 128 to 1 dilution ratio, which is the minimum of what the instruction label recommends. Surprisingly, its slickness is still holding strong even with a whole gallon diluting a single ounce of the product. Very impressive, and that gets a pass at this ratio. Adding an additional 128 ounces or a gallon of water in the bucket, it turned into 256 to 1 dilution ratio. Now, the jump between 1 to 2 gallons was quite noticeable. It has some slickness, but it's barely passing grade, in my opinion, and I think this is the bare minimum of what I would recommend in a bucket solution for this soap. Now, I see a lot of people using a single ounce of soap for every 4 to 5 gallons of water, like those chemical guys videos, so I thought I would give it a try at the 640 to 1 dilution ratio, which is approximately 4 gallons of water. There's almost no lubricity with this ratio, and unfortunately I would have to give it a fail. It feels just like water, and the friction between my fingers was noticeable compared to the previous ratios. So for slickness, I would recommend using the 1:28:1 ratio for the bucket solution. Next category for ease of use are the dyes and fragrance. In a small cup, I pour some undiluted pearl so we can see the transparency. It's a soft monochrome yellow dye that looks pretty clean, unlike those harsh cherry reds or dark blue soaps from other brands. So the dye solution in the soap means it's controlled and not over the top. Now, I'm not going to lie, while I do love my car soaps to have a hint of fragrance for a satisfying luxury wash, I do not like my soaps to go that overboard, such as spicy cherry, heavy grape, and candy lemon scent. So I pour a little bit of pearl in a cup, take a whiff, and I can say this is a satisfying fragrance and is not overwhelming. I asked my family members to smell this without looking at the bottle, and all of them, including me, thought the same impression. It smells exactly like the peels of an orange, with light hints of a citrusy, zesty scent that is rather calming and pleasant to work with even during a wash. So for the dyes and fragrances, it is not overwhelming like most soaps and controlled for a more satisfying wash for the detailer to enjoy. Topic 2. Versatility. Can it be used in a rinseless procedure? I have seen detailers do this, and even on the PNS YouTube channel, but I have never seen anyone do it in direct sunlight with hot weather, so thought I would shed some light on the subject in a more realistic manner with hot California weather and a dark tinted window so we can see what happens to the spent product. In a spray bottle, I add 256:1 dilution ratio of pearl to perform a rinseless procedure on the glass. Adding plenty of product all over the surface and paired with a soft Rag Company Creature Edgeless towel, I wipe away using common left, right, up, down motions to collect any loose dirt and buff accordingly. Now from a distance this looks clean and non-detail oriented folk would probably call it a day here, but to the eyes of a detailer there is an obvious issue. Bringing the camera closer, you could tell that there are some streaks throughout the surface, and that is with me buffing the glass to smoothen it out. Sure, you can bring out the glass cleaner, but that would ruin what a rinseless procedure is, using less product to work more efficiently. I am aware this car is in direct sunlight and that the glass is tinted to a black color, but that is the reality of detailing, outdoor washing, so I'm trying to show what most detailers would face in a more realistic environment compared to a clearly staged, indoor, air-conditioned, couple grand detailing studio. And that's not where it ends. I then move on to the next category, which is testing to see how easy it is to remove after it had dried on the surface. The same dilution was used, and I spray all over another glass panel that is facing the scorching California sun. I only wipe away the lower area to prevent the solution from dripping onto the paint. After letting it dry for about 2 minutes, according to my video length, you can clearly see that pearl streaks horribly under the rays of the sun, and I don't think performing a rinseless solution under any circumstances in this weather would be ideal. Pulling out my trusty G-Technic glass cleaner, I gave it a once over to see what would happen, and unfortunately pearl leaves a nasty residue even after a hard hit with a glass cleaner. It looks like a streaky mess, and is more noticeable on dark colored tint as shown in this demo. So from here I performed 3 entire glass clean procedures and it was barely coming off. So to conclude, pearl performs horribly under the sun and I don't recommend using this product in a rinseless procedure. Best to use this soap as its intended purpose in a full wash process and let other brands handle the rinseless procedure. Topic 3. Cleaning capabilities. We will see how capable pearl is as a cleaner on its own in a regular wash. I have this lovely Cadillac Escalade to demo this test, and while it appears clean from a distance, up close there are some stubborn burnt droppings all around the vehicle as well as water spots. In this test we will see how pearl performs with acidic contaminants and minerals from hard water sources. For my equipment, I have a Krenzel 1322 TS pressure washer and a DI tank for no mineral interference with the test. As for my solution, I prep a bucket with pearl diluted at 1:28:1 dilution ratio, or 1 ounce per gallon of water. For the foam cannon, I dilute the soap at 16:1 ratio, which in the foam cannon was 2 ounces of pearl and 32 ounces of water. The water looks a bit murky, but worry not, that is completely normal since this is coming straight from the DI tank and the air bubbles are slowly coming out, so this won't interfere with our test. This vehicle was not dirty like those YouTube thumbnails, so a quick rinse was called to order, and I won't use the APC pre-wash here because I wanted to see how Pearl performed on its own with no assistance from other chemicals. So a light rinse will get the loose stuff just fine. Pulling the trigger, a rich, milky layer of bubbles lather the surface, and worry not, I will show a foam test later in the video. With a soap-primed wash mitt, I used the traditional techniques with up, down, left, right motions, not circles. Now I foamed the windshield, but I did not want to contact wash it because I wanted to see how Pearl works in a contactless manner. So after the rinse, I will show you the results. From basic observation, the soap is a bit more runny after a short amount of time, but its lubricity is spot on, especially in the bucket solution as mentioned in the slickness test. With so much lubricity, I take advantage of that and clean the water spot bombarded wheel with the same mitt and solution in the foam cannon and bucket. Remember, this is not a detail, but a simple wash. We are only focusing on the contaminants that soaps normally struggle on. I can definitely feel the surface is a bit grippy with all of the water spots, and usually an active wheel cleaner can deal with the minerals, but for the sake of this test, I will let Pearl do its best. Using DI water accelerates the drying process, especially in the immense California weather. A quick dry all around the vehicle, it does look a whole lot better than it did before. However, I do need to point out some contaminants that I had failed to address. There are a lot of bird droppings that I was certain was only there for a day, and Pearl was not able to remove it entirely. I can forgive etchings, which requires a polish, but the fact that it could not remove a single bird pastry is a bit disappointing given its higher alkalinity. Especially on the windshield where I left it to soak in the contaminants for a longer period of time and sadly didn't do much. The side doors are still plagued with water spots, and the same thing can be said for the wheels. Water spots on the other hand I can forgive. Minerals require an acidic chemical procedure, and while Pearl was clearly not ideal for this, thought I'd give it a go to see if it had worked. So from this test, and many more off camera, I can conclude that Pearl cleans pretty well with general grime, and provides plenty of slickness, but struggles to address bird droppings despite having a higher alkaline chemistry. I will elaborate on that in a minute. On to the next category of cleaning capabilities, pH testing. Here I will test the pH rating with different water qualities and dilutions so we can understand the product a bit more. I will be using simple equipment like measurement cups, beakers, and glass tubes. I will be comparing the pH with tap water from my house and DI water from my filter, both at a pH around 7.5, so we can see key differences, if any, when using different water qualities. With DI water, I get a rating of 0 ppm and my tap source at around 300 ppm. Up first is pH testing with DI water. For the tests, I will be using 8:1, 16:1, 64:1, 128:1, 256:1, and full strength, each poured in their own container. All the test tubes will be filled with 30 milliliters of water, and I will add the soap afterwards with precise syringe. On a separate cup, I pour some Pearl solution undiluted and transfer the calculated amount for each test tube. Using my trusty Milwaukee MW102 pH and temp meter, I dip the probes in and wait for the results. Now I had to test this several times both on camera and off, so I will display my results on screen for your convenience. I'm sure you can see that this soap, despite being diluted all the way to 256:1 and 8:1, the pH sits around at a rating of 10 to 10.5 using DI water. This tells me that while it is a pH balanced soap, it is surprisingly high in alkalinity. At such a rating, this could potentially shed a very light amount of wax from a car surface without it being a full strip wash. I've used this product for some time and I have noticed a light amount of stripping, but I will elaborate on that in a minute. Next is testing the same dilutions using tap water, again at around a pH of 7.5 and close to 300 ppm. Same procedure as before, with 300 milliliters of water in each test tube and adding the soap with a syringe. After testing each dilution again with a different water quality, you can see on screen that it dropped almost a full rating with just the water quality alone. It averaged at around 9 to 10 pH, which raised an eyebrow as to why I was getting a completely different answer. Now, I emailed Dave Phillips from PNS, and from what he told me, there are a lot of variables with my testing, and that is a completely different video to cover. However, key things he mentioned to me were that P&S intentionally spiked the soap to prevent the product from turning into a gel, and retain its chemistry in the case of a pH fluctuation. So on the P&S Pearl SDS sheet, it states that it has a pH rating of 8 to 9, which is far from my testing, but that is the issue. There is no accurate number for all water sources because everyone has different water qualities. So in this setting with my tap water, I will get a pH of around 9 to 10, and your mileage may vary depending on what minerals are in your water source. Remember when I said that this soap won't strip despite having a high pH? Well, that is because pH isn't the full story of a product, and the rabbit hole for the subject is incredibly deep. So what did we learn? Well, Pearl is alkaline based and would be great for a maintenance soap if you don't wash your car that frequently, but neither leave it completely neglected. Should you worry about this? Not really. But if you would like to nerd out with me, make sure to hit me up in the comment section below. Topic 4. Ah yeah, the part everyone skips the whole video to. The foaming capabilities. On the same vehicle, I will be testing the soap with different pressure washers and water qualities. There is no impact on the amount of foam with the hose type and pressure gun, so we can factor that out of the equation. Both machines will be connected to my pressure washer card, and the first machine I will be using is a low-spec pressure washer from Greenworks rated at 1500 psi and 1.2 GPM. Not the best machine out there, but nice to include detailers on a tight budget. The second machine for the test is a high-end Krenzel 1322 TS rated at 1500 psi and 2.1 GPM. While this is a high quality machine, I did not want to feature a gas pressure washer only because the results are pretty much the same past 2.5 GPM. And finally, I have a DI tank set up where I will use Pearl both with tap water and DI water on both machines so you can see key differences in foam output. Now before we begin the foam test, I wanted to quickly mention that Pearl's label does not have any instructions regarding how much soap to use in a foam cannon, so I'll be testing this with the standardized 16:1 and 18:1 dilution ratio for both water qualities and machines. My foam cannon of choice is the Trinova mid-tier foam cannon, not the best compared to MTM, but neither those cheap Chinese knockoff brands from Amazon. Before blasting some bubbles, a quick rinse was called to order to remove any loose dust for an accurate result. Up first we have 16:1 dilution ratio with tap water using the Greenworks pressure washer. Pulling the trigger, I am sure you can sense the disappointment I felt after witnessing watered down foam. While yes, there is technically suds on the surface and it covers it evenly, you can't deny that this level of foam is very runny and not ideal for extended dwell time. So with tap water and a low spec machine, I don't recommend this ratio. Next up is a stronger solution of 8:1 ratio with tap water using the Greenworks pressure washer. Upon first impression, there is definitely more foam, but unfortunately it is a bit on the runny side for my taste. Doubling the solution, I can tell that the surface is coated with more bubbles and lasts a bit longer with more product to work with. If you're using a similar spec machine, I think this is as far as you can get with foam, and I don't think adding more product would make sense from a dollar per ounce perspective. So either spend more product in the foam cannon, or just take it on the chin. Switching machines, next is 16:1 ratio using tap water with the Krenzel pressure washer. If you thought more water meant more foam, well, sorry to burst your bubble, but that was the complete opposite here. The foam rinsed off almost right away, and the suds seem to have leveled off through time. Yeah, the lubricity is still there, but I just can't see myself realistically using this amount of foam. If you have a machine around 2 GPM, these are the results you can expect at this ratio, and while it is technically functional, these results just ain't it for me. 8:1 ratio with tap water using the Krenzel pressure washer. I'm sure you can tell on camera that there is a lot more foam than the Greenworks machine and previous Krenzel tests. Doubling the amount of soap really helps to activate the bubbles for a more consistent sheet of foam and extended dwell time. If you ask me, the Krenzel 1322 TS at 8:1 ratio using tap water takes the crown for the most foam. If you have a lower spec pressure washer, the only thing I can advise is adding more soap, but how much soap can you realistically put until it starts to become too expensive? I would love to see your opinion, so drop it down in the comment section below this video and let me know how you work around foam output with tap water. For the next part, things start to change as I swap over to DI water. Next was 16:1 ratio using DI water with the Greenworks pressure washer. After pulling the trigger, my goodness, the amount of foam far surpassed all of the previous tests. It is so incredibly thick, and this is a perfect example of how far DI water can take you even with a low spec machine, barely scraping it with 1 gallon per minute of performance. If you're a mobile detailer using spot-free water in your tank, this is basically the same water quality type. So this is what you can expect with 16:1 ratio using a low spec machine with DI water. Next test is 8:1 ratio using DI water with the Greenworks pressure washer. It is incredibly thick with plenty of bubbles to create a large sheet of foam for extended lubricity and dwell time. I will admit that it doesn't look too different compared to 16:1 ratio. Perhaps the foam lasts a bit more with 8:1. So in my honest opinion, save that extra ounce and use 16:1 ratio for similar results if you are using a lower spec machine. Switching machines, next is 16:1 ratio using DI water with the Krenzel machine. What you are seeing is indeed a rich, creamy layer of foam, but I will be very honest with you, this looks very similar to the Greenworks machine with DI water. It makes sense though, doubling the GPM makes the solution very runny even if the pressure was dialed up. To a lot of people, this is more than enough foam, and I can respect that opinion. So if you have a machine at around 2 GPM, these are the results you can expect with the 16:1 ratio. The last test, 8:1 ratio using DI water with the Krenzel machine. Now this right here, this is my favorite level of foam. When the bubbles land on the surface, they stick on with large clumps of foam and don't drip to the floor as quickly as the other tests. Having thick foam, no matter the soap, helps extend the time you have to agitate the surface before it starts running off or drying up. On hot summer days, it can help shield the vehicle, especially if you apply a pre-treatment or iron remover if you are outdoors with no shade. Many more benefits to thick foam, so if you have a DI tank or get spot-free water locally, this is what you can achieve with a 2 GPM machine at 8:1 ratio, to which I think is the best combination of foam output. If you have a lower spec machine, I would say 16:1 ratio because going any higher has very little benefit, so save that extra ounce if you're using a low spec machine at around 1 GPM. Topic 5. Price value. Now talking about what is valuable is subjective, and I know not everyone can agree with what I will say because of how different we all live financially. I will try my best to elaborate on my opinion for the value of Pearl, so if you have something else to add, make sure to let me know in the chat box below this video. Now Pearl seems to be intended for professional detailers, considering the PNS brand tends to market itself as business oriented, similar to Meguiar's detailer lineup. So to add a couple players within the same field and price point, I compare Pearl with Meguiar's Shampoo Plus and Turtle Wax Slick and Slide, with all prices coming straight from their websites in USD. To check for value, we need to look at the dollar per ounce for every container size of the products, to which I will display on screen. Pearl is the only product with a 32-ounce container. Meguiar's and Pearl both have 5-gallon and 1-gallon variants, with Turtle Wax being the only one with a 64-ounce option. If you're a detailer just starting out, or detailing as a hobby, or perhaps you don't use that much product, I believe a 32-ounce container of Pearl and Turtle Wax Slick and Slide is quite valuable if you don't wash cars that often. So these two are solid options for a majority of detailing folk starting out or hobbyists. If you're detailing as a business with plenty of vehicles to book your week, right off the bat, cross off Pearl 32-ounce and Turtle Wax because their price per ounce is too high if you frequently wash cars. Pearl 1-gallon and Meguiar's 5-gallon have the same price per ounce. So even if you ordered 5 1-gallons of Pearl, it would cost the same as 1 5-gallon of Meguiar's. So if you do, I would say 15 cars per week. Both of these options are great in terms of value, and Pearl will definitely not disappoint. If you're looking for the most value, no matter what, Pearl's 5-gallon option is the go-to, beating Meguiar's by a couple of pennies. I think this would make more sense if you go to a local detail shop because shipping costs will be too high to deliver a heavy container, so do some research and calculate your costs before purchasing. Now I have been praising Pearl quite a lot, but I will need to mention a couple of things. Yes, it is incredibly valuable, but in my previous topics I did state that this product lacked a bit in the lubricity and foam compared to other soaps. I'm not saying Pearl is a bad soap, but if you're looking for high lubrication and foam with the least amount of product spent, this might not be valuable despite costing less. So with that said, if you can work around with what Pearl struggles with, this is an incredibly valuable option with plenty of suds and potential. If you want a product that has greater dilution levels, foam output, and lubricity, I think Meguiar's Shampoo Plus is the way to go. Of course, this is just my opinion, so if you agree or not, let me know your thoughts down below. Alrighty, PNS Pearl review. My final opinion, my final thoughts. What score did I give it on my scale? Well, I give PNS Pearl a 6.8 out of 10. Now, this is a really good product to use. There's a lot going for it. It's a pretty easy product to use. It cleans very well, very economical. However, the foam is okay. It's not that bad. I understand this is not intended to be a snow foam, but the foam could use a little bit more work. The lubricity is actually pretty good. The versatility is not that great, unfortunately. Because of that higher alkaline chemistry, it makes it really hard for me to use a rinseless solution or even a touchless solution in an outdoor environment in direct sunlight. Because of that alkalinity, this streaks pretty badly. So I will have to mark it down for that. But despite all of that I've said, I feel like you're getting so much in this container because of this value. There is so much value, which is why I gave it such a high rating on the value scale, because for what you are paying, which is approximately $20, you're getting a lot of product to use in your details. Now, as you saw, compared to other major brands within its same work field, and even looking at its dollar per ounce, this still managed to be much more valuable because you're getting much more product for that price. And despite all of that I've criticized about it, I feel like if you can work around its weaknesses, there is a lot going for this product. So yeah, 6.8 out of 10 for PNS Pearl. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe down below for more future content like this down the road, and make sure to hit me down in the comment section below if you want to talk about this product and also engage with the review. So that'll be it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Have a good time.